Our protagonist, Wei, lost her parents when she was young, and at a funeral, only Camel, her father's business partner, was present. He comforted her and told her that from that moment on, she was his daughter. That memory returned to her mind as she woke from a nightmare, wondering if Camel had anything to do with her parents' death. The next day, we meet Yu, who's talking to his father, telling him he's on his way. At the party, we learn he's Camel's son, and people think the party is to announce his engagement to the daughter of his father's business partner. But as soon as she enters the party, we understand it's not for the engagement, but to announce that she'll be the new director of the company, since she's just arrived from abroad. Our boyfriend couldn't take his eyes off her, having already seen her the night before at a bar, and the truth is, she managed to entice him, capturing him with her charm, although it wasn't a coincidence, since she planned the meeting. He then confronted her, but just then her parents appeared and formally introduced them. This is our adopted daughter, and this is our son, the doctor. After the party, his father gets angry with him. You said you weren't interested in business. We let you become a doctor, but now you don't even visit us. Remember, your fiancé is about to arrive. He replies, first, I'm not getting married, and second, I see you replace me with a sister. The stepmother tells our daughter how badly her son and his father get along. They just fight. She calms her down by saying that everything will pass, and the naive stepmother asks her to convince him to come home. This was perfect for her plan. She dresses up beautifully and goes to the bar to look for him. But the suspicious man tells her, don't act like a little sister, I've only known you for 2 hours. They still agree to play, and if she wins, he goes home. The game wasn't entirely innocent, so the half-scared girl decides to return and declares her the winner. On their way home, they run into Han, a friend from his time studying abroad. She leaves with Han, leaving our boy behind, who watches him the whole time, annoyed and suspicious. Back home, he enters her room without permission, checks her lactose, and finds information about the company and a UCB with important files. He confronts her, saying, you have suspicious information about the company. What are you up to? She tries to downplay it. It's nothing. Don't worry. I just want to protect you. But that phrase leaves him frozen, thinking, where have I heard that before? And he remembers a girl he met at an orphanage who told him exactly the same thing. He asks her if she lived in the orphanage, and she responds defensively, saying, even if she did, it's none of your business. Camel then tells her that her son was a good boy until his mother was hit by a car 20 years ago. And she says, what if the car that killed his mother was the same one that killed my parents? But he replies, that only happens in movies, don't get any ideas. But the seed of doubt was planted. Then she goes in search of the driver, who was the only survivor of the accident. The address leads her to a very poor neighborhood, and as soon as she enters, a little girl runs up to her screaming, Mommy, Mommy. She tries to explain that she's not her mother, and a man appears, telling her that the girl is the granddaughter of the driver, who died a month ago. Her uncle refused to take her in and sent her to an orphanage, from which she ran away, and the girl faints. Just then, our doctor appears, having been following her because he suspected she was hiding something. They take the girl to the hospital where he works, and since he doesn't allow any woman to wear miniskirts, he puts his jacket on her and carries her to the room. When the girl wakes up, he jokes, saying, come on, go with your daughter. But the girl runs up to him and says, Daddy, Daddy. He explains that he's not her father, and the crying girl tells him that her grandfather promised her parents would come for her. Then Han, who turns out to be a doctor, appears and informs them that the girl needs a heart transplant, something that will be very expensive. Our generous guy tells her he'll cover all the costs, and she looks at him in surprise. Shortly after, she learns that the uncle who rejected the girl has kept the compensation for the accident. Then our guy catches her and confronts her, so she pretends not to notice. Putting the pieces together, she discovers that the driver's relative now has a company, and she thinks it's been bought by Camel, who may be more involved than it seems. Our boy, unable to contain his doubts, confronts her and asks, why did you come back to this country? And why did my father adopt you? She replies, I came back to take care of the company you refused to take care of. You preferred to be a doctor. And why did he adopt me? Well, ask him yourself. Then he receives a call from his friend, who tells him where the relative who abandoned the girl is staying. She went to the bar and ran into the driver's relative, who kept making ugly insinuations and even tried to take her by force. But our guy showed up, putting her in her place, and the guy understood that she wasn't to be trifled with or messed with. She thanked him for the gentlemanly gesture, and he took the opportunity to ask her why she was investigating that man. She replied, "What's wrong? My little brother is worried about me." To which he replied, "Who told you I want to be your brother?" At that moment, the stepmother heard them and thought to herself that there was going to be some serious trouble at home. The next day, Han went to the hospital and found them playing with a little girl, as if they were a family, getting a little jealous. Later, our girl met up with her friend, who dropped a bombshell on her. He discovered that her parents had transferred all their shares to Camel just before they died. So the suspicion about this man, who supposedly adopted her out of affection, only grew. He returned to the hospital to see the girl and overheard one of our doctor's patients say, "I love you. I'm dying for you, my love." And he, not knowing how to escape, tried to convince her that he was just treating her like another patient. Then our girl appeared, stood in front of her, and said, "Don't you dare touch him." And this made him remember the little girl in the orphanage who always protected him. Meanwhile, Camel learned that the driver's relative, the girl's uncle, hadn't kept his promise to look after her. He angrily ordered all his contracts to be taken away, leaving him with nothing. The next day, he received a call from someone asking to meet him at his house, just as the new owner of the house that had once belonged to his parents arrived. She told him she was selling the property, and if he wanted to buy it, he'd have to give her $3 million. Desperate, she sent our doctor a text, appealing to his heart. She told him she was in trouble and needed money urgently, but he didn't see the message because his cell phone was off. Then, when he entered her room, he found a check signed by her father and was enraged. When she appeared, he yelled at her that she was an opportunist, self-interested, and that she should leave the house. His words hurt her deeply. She screamed so loudly that her father appeared and slapped her across the face, saying, "Treat her like your sister, or I'll never see you here again." The boy froze, not understanding why his father was defending her so much, until he opened his cell phone and read her message, realizing he'd been an idiot. Then his stepmother came into his room and explained that she only wanted to save the family home and its memories, which was why she'd asked his father for help. Meanwhile, she went to the bar and met the driver's relative. She threw water in his face, slapped him a few times, and said, "I just want to know the truth about what happened in the accident. If you talk, I'll get you a job and money." But the conversation couldn't continue because our boyfriend arrived, thinking the man was bothering her. At that moment, her blood pressure dropped, and he picked her up to take her home. The next day, she woke up with little memory, but she learned from her stepmother that he was the one who took her home. Meanwhile, he went to the hospital to see the girl and told Han that she was sick, which was why she hadn't gone. But Han got angry, thinking, how does he know more about her than I do, even though I'm his friend? Then he came home and found her coming out of the bathroom. He gave her a mischievous look and asked if she was the same girl from the orphanage. But she told him he should change the subject because it was getting repetitive. Then he left first because her father was calling him. When her father arrived, he told her, "I know you're upset with me, but it's not her fault." He told her the whole story. He had loved another woman, but her mother found out, got angry, and drove off, which is when she had the accident. Her parents died in that accident, and from then on, he took care of her as a way of atoning for his sins. Our guy remembered all the mean things he'd said to her and realized it wasn't really her fault. So, without telling her, he secretly bought the house, paid off her debts, and asked his friend to pretend he was still renting it to her. That night, he found her drinking, took her drink, gave her her medicine, and promised that when she was better, the two of them would drink together. He also apologized for the check, but there was nothing fraternal about their relationship, and that bothered his stepmother a lot. Then he simply told her, "I asked you to treat her like a sister, not like a fiancée. Remember, your fiancée will be back in the country soon, and she will be your wife." He replied, "Please, when he comes, you can tell him to leave." She tried to tell him he could never be with our girl, and he replied, "We don't have the same blood or the same last name, and we grew up together. Why are you making such a fuss?" And the woman remained silent. Later, Kame returned her shares, telling her they were his and that he only kept them for protection. His words confused her. He seemed sincere, but she still had doubts. She had to find out who caused the accident that killed her parents. Then she learned that it was our doctor's deceased mother's birthday and that he was sad and drinking. She went to comfort him, telling him that life goes on, that his mother wouldn't want to see him like that he had to move on. But as he crossed the street, he saved her from being run over and told her, "I'm not ready to lose another person I love." Without hesitation, she hugged him, and he understood that she loved him too. They then went to her house, and honestly, her yard needed a complete overhaul. But our hero rolled up his sleeves, leaving them shining. When he entered her room, SAS saw a photo of her as a child, and it was the same one who had defended him in the orphanage. She couldn't refuse him and said, "Yes, that's me," and they began reminiscing about their childhood, although she didn't want to hear any of it. Meanwhile, Han seems to be hiding something dark and holds a photo that only shows a mother and her son. His father calls him and asks if he's done his homework. He tells him he needs more time, and the father replies, "Your mother will be fine if you do it," as if to say it all depends on what she does. Returning to our protagonists, they return home chatting and are seen by their stepmother, who without hesitation tells her father about their supposed closeness. Meanwhile, he's overjoyed because he's finally found the girl he was looking for. She, on the other hand, thinks all the romanticism could ruin her plans and decides to focus on work. She then meets with Han and tells him they need to contact the driver's relative again, but he unexpectedly asks her, "Do you think you could ever fall in love with you?" She replies, "Never," unaware that our boyfriend was standing behind her listening. When she returns home, he confronts her with a classic, "You're a liar" speech, but luckily, her stepmother comes in and interrupts them again. And wait for it, here comes a bombshell. Han was also in the orphanage with them, and now he's bursting with jealousy because she remembers our boy, but she's never remembered him. Later she goes to look for the driver's relative, but some thugs to whom he owes money arrive, and the bastard says to them, "See this girl? She comes from a millionaire family, forget about me, take her, and demand a ransom." The thugs thought it was a good idea, but our boy showed up and beat them up, but in the fight he took several blows and she took him to the hospital. Later she calls Han to ask him why he didn't go to the hospital. He says he's sick and she promises to tell him everything when they see each other. After they hang up, she thinks he was the only one who knew where she was going. She starts to suspect, but she isn't convinced. She knows he's a very good person. Then a friend of Jung told him that he had a terminal illness and that his last wish was to spend his days with her. She tearfully ran to his side and swore that she would never leave him. When he left the hospital, they went to her family's house, and in an atmosphere full of romance, she hugged him and told him that she loved him and that she would stay with him until the end. But he was confused and wanted to know more, so she confessed to him, "Your friend told me that you have a very serious illness, and I had to tell you that I love you before it's too late." He was surprised and replied, "That guy must have seen a romance drama." Then he said, "I'm very healthy, but thanks to that, you were finally sincere." Then at the hospital, she thanked her friend for his idea. Later, they were drinking wine in her room, but her stepmother, like a good party favor, comes in because she heard noises and he quickly hides in the closet. I think that woman needs to get hooked on a 900-chapter Turkish soap opera and let them live out their romance. Then she goes out with Han, who notices her radiant face and asks her about a new moisturizer or a new love. She laughingly tells him, "Well, love, I followed my heart and now I'm with Ju," and of course, this makes him upset, but he avoids showing it. Then when he goes out to see our girl, his father tells him, "Your fiancée is back from abroad, are you going to marry her?" But he flatly refuses, saying, "I'll only marry the woman I love." Then they punish him, they lock him in his room, they take away his cell phone, and she stays waiting for him, and as always Han appears by chance and tells her, "Forget about Ju, stay with me," but she replies that She only sees him as a friend. The next day, she looks for him everywhere with the supposed help of Han until they find him, and they melt into a very loving hug, while Han almost explodes with jealousy. Our boy promises her that he will never leave her, that he will confront his parents for her, and he also asks her to stay away from Han because he doesn't give her a good feeling. She accepts without hesitation, but this makes him angry since he had put microphones on her to listen to them. She decided to cut it out, and went to talk to her adoptive father. He told him that he was going to remove the adoption papers and that our boyfriend would cancel the engagement just to be together, but he told her not to try. You two could never be together because you are my daughter of my flesh and blood. You are not adopted. She was shocked. My God, what are you saying? Then he explained to her, after your mother died, I needed to get married again for the business to work, so I registered you as the daughter of my first friend and his wife to raise you. And when they died, you came back to me, but I never told you the truth, so as not to ruin your life. She went off drinking, saying I wish it had turned out to be an alien, a ghost, or that she was married in secret with 3 children, but that it was my brother. And guess who arrived at that moment? None other than Han. He took her home. She was quiet. It was cold, and he seemed to want to take advantage of the situation, but in the end he respected her limits and did nothing inappropriate. The next morning she woke up and found that he had prepared a bitter soup for her, but no more bitter than her recent days. When she returned home, she heard him tell his fiancée that he had no intention of marrying her and came in shouting, "What do you mean? You're not getting married? If I wanted to wear a gala dress, I want to see you married." But he didn't believe her and went after her to understand what was happening. She cold as ice told him, "There's no story or tale. You were just an exciting chapter for me, and that chapter is now closed. Besides, I never took you seriously." But he didn't swallow that excuse. He knew she was lying to him, especially when he saw her crying in her friend's arms for lost love. Then she went to dinner with Han, who was all elegant, as if it were a date. She pretended not to understand anything until you and his fiancée appeared. The awkward. He told them, "Come sit with us." And you sat next to him, leaving his fiancée with Han during dinner. There were hints from all sides. Suddenly, she couldn't take it anymore and went to the bathroom to avoid him, but he went after her, and here's a secret is revealed. There was a pact between Han and our boy's fiancée. It turns out they were also in the same orphanage. Meanwhile, he found her taking a strange medicine, but every time he approached her, she remembered her parents' words and that forbidden love they shared. So when he offered to take her, she said no thanks. Han took her home, but he wanted to stay the night, and she firmly said, "Until here we arrived." Then our boy arrived, and with his heart made sad, he asked her, "Why are you doing this to me?" And she answered, "Because there is a horrible truth that I don't want you to know." Meanwhile, the stepmother comforted the fiancé, and the girl said through tears, "He will never look at me as long as she exists." Then she went with her husband, saying, "We have to get married. Your son is not trustworthy. Next month seems perfect to get married." And the fiancé, where was he? Well, at our girl's house with flowers, telling her, "I hope you'll be as happy as these flowers again, even if I'm not in your life." And just as she was leaving, she heard a loud noise. She found her soaked. She turned off the tap, and he ended up soaked too. The moment was so intense that they both knew something bad was coming. She went to her room, and he, all excited, went after her, asking, "I want to know, why don't you want to admit that you love me?" She showed him a stock transfer contract. "Your father gave me this in exchange for me leaving you, and honestly, I couldn't refuse that offer." He went off furious to argue with the father, but he didn't achieve anything, and he got angry when he found out that they had set a date for their wedding without his permission. Then he ran into Han at the hospital and said, "Don't even think about getting close to her. She will never see you as anything more than a simple friend. Everyone she distrusted Han more. He seemed to have a secret, and our boy was getting jealous, but Han, being cunning, he pretended he had something in his eyes so she would blow him, making him jealous. But despite that, our girl stood her ground. Every time he spoke to her about love, she cut him off, saying, "You're like a brother to me." Meanwhile, he returned home, and his fiancée had cooked for him. She tried to make him feel good, but he said, "Look, I love someone else. I'm not going to marry you." But Han just uploaded a picture with her, saying they were engaged, and he, believing it, he went straight to buy a ring. His fiancée was spying on him, took a picture, and sent it to our girl, saying, "We're already looking for rings." Then they met on the roof, and out of nowhere he took out the ring and asked her to marry him. But she said, "You're dreaming. That Romeo number doesn't impress me." He replied that she knew that the shares were just an excuse, and that wasn't the real reason why he had left. She admitted that she had lied, but that she was really dating Han, and If he didn't believe her, he could ask her afterward. She spent her time crying with her friend, telling her that she couldn't get away from him, but she couldn't get close to him either, that everything was a mess. Her friend told her that it was best for her to travel, because if she continued seeing him every day, she would only suffer more. She accepted but told him that she had something pending first, so she went to see Han, and with a strange look, she told him that she was going on a trip alone. The worst thing is that guy went with his fiancée and played him a recording with the conversations he had spied on, where they found out that our protagonists were brothers and that Jung didn't know it yet, so they put together a plan to separate them completely. They took advantage of the fact that she was in a hotel. They put something in her wine and sent Jung to her room, so the press would catch them discovering that they were brothers, but luckily, he managed to react and took her to the hospital. Meanwhile, Han angrily claimed to his fiancée for having put that in the wine. He made it clear that he would do anything to separate them except hurt our girl. Meanwhile, our boy was with her, but her friend found out and kicked him out, telling him that his love had only brought her illness and that she was leaving the country to avoid his wedding. That night, she argued with her father and asked him to tell her the whole truth, and when he found out everything, he felt completely cheated and confused. But in the end, our boy decided to send for a DNA test to end all doubts. When he woke up, the first thing he did was ask about him, and his friend in a sarcastic tone told him to worry about his own misfortune. Then the driver's granddaughter went to visit her, and although Han had told her not to talk about you, she let slip to tell him that she was getting married and that she was not the bride, leaving her even worse. And here comes the hardest part: the DNA results came out positive. If they were siblings, he still went to see her like a little brother. He told her that he would never forgive himself for her suffering because of him, and that he would always be there to protect her. She cried in her room. He cried outside. Everything was a super dramatic atmosphere that could not be held. After a few days, Han accompanied him home, and just as he left, he ran into you. They got into an argument, because she already knew everything about the drugs and the wine, the hotel, and the journalists, and she suspected that he could have done all that, but Han told him to ask his fiancée, so he went straight to confront her. He yelled at him not to come near our girl ever again, and made it clear that he would not marry her. She, furious, wanted revenge. She drank and put magic dust in the wine, and called our boy to go see her. Out of nowhere, Han came to confront her, and without knowing it, she ended up drinking from the wine, and what had to happen? Then she went to our boy's family, demanding to take charge and marry her. But he flatly refused. He told her that nothing had happened between them and that he didn't plan on getting married. The fiancée went to our girl to convince him, but she sent her away, to say the least. In the middle of everything, he and his friend discovered that Han's dad was a member of the Orphan Foundation, along with his father Kamal and our girl's father, but they fought, and the accident happened on the day of a charity gala. Coincidence? Who knows? To top it off, the shameless fiancé published compromising photos of our friends, writing forbidden love of brothers. Look, before they delete it, she, not finding another way out, decided to end her life. She did a live broadcast where she confessed that Jung was innocent, that she had manipulated him, but he arrived just in time. He told her that if she was going to die, he would also die with her. They were about to jump, when suddenly they heard her father and stepmother yelling to get down, that they were fools who were not really siblings. And finally we get to the big twist of the drama. The stepmother confessed that her sister, that is Jung's mother, had had several abortions, and to avoid losing the marriage when she got pregnant by her boyfriend, her sister begged her to let her have the baby. That is, Jung is actually the son of the stepmother, and our girl is the daughter of Kamal and his first wife. That is, they are not siblings. Finally, she gave an interview to clarify the rumors. The journalist asked her if there was something she had not yet told our boy. Got into the interview, and she said, if we are together, nobody cares. Besides, her happiness was immense when she did another test, and they confirmed that they really were not siblings. The next day, she ran into the driver's relative, who told her, give me money, and I'll tell you the truth. The truth was that her parents were murdered because they discovered something. She asked him what it was, but the guy escaped because he saw Jung approaching, and when he asked her who she was talking to, she said no one. Then she went to the guy's house and no one was there, but our guy showed up and said, thank goodness I noticed you came unannounced. They went in together and saw signs of a big fight, but no sign of the guy. She found a lost necklace, and when she opened it, she discovered that it had a memory card. That necklace belonged to her mother. They went back home. They checked the memory and found a picture of her father with Ju's father and Han's father. Then they discovered a secret file that needed a password. She remembered her father stressing her and her mother's birth dates. She tried it, and it worked. Inside were files that proved Han's father had stolen funds. The next day, she went to see Han to ask him about her father, but he dodged the subject, and our guy came to pick her up. He then warned her not to see him alone again because he seemed like a dangerous guy, and he was the one who falsified the DNA test to make them believe they were siblings. Then they went to the hospital when he saw the girl, who was very happy to see them together. Han was dying of jealousy, especially when she found out that they would have dinner together that night. They also decided to adopt the girl as soon as they were married, but the dinner was ruined because Camel called them and asked to go see him. When the evil woman arrived, she said, "Remember, we spent the night together. I'm pregnant. You're going to be a father." But he replied, "This baby is not mine. I was never with you. Look for the real father." She remembered. Let's remember that she took the magic powders. Then she went straight to Han to tell him, "I'm pregnant. Take care of our child." But he refused, saying, "I'm not going to bring a child into the world," and they had a strong argument. The next day they learned that the girl disappeared from the hospital. We discovered that Han's father kidnapped the girl, and also told his son that he never saw him as a son, that his mother was a crazy woman who had killed 2 years ago and had deceived him by saying that he was sick in a hospital. That news was terrible for Han. But at that moment, he only cared about saving the girl. Her father told him, "Bring me the memory card, and I'll give you back the girl." Meanwhile, our protagonists went to Han's house and discovered that he had been recording them, and she was devastated for having trusted him like a brother. Apart from that, the evil one had an accident and lost the baby. Then Han sent her a message asking her to go to a warehouse if she wanted to save the girl. But as soon as she arrived, she was hit on the head. Then Han called her and asked her to go with the card if she wanted to see the girl. In the warehouse, she had kidnapped the driver's relative and made him confess that he tampered with the brakes of Yu's mother's car on the orders of the evil father. He hit the guy and said to our girl, "You have your revenge, come on." But she refused, saying, "Justice has to do its job." He told her about his sad childhood in an orphanage. His mother was crazy. His father was a thief, and she didn't love him either. She told him, "For the last time, you are like a brother to me." The tired one asked him for the memory, and in return he would give him the girl. But just as our boy arrived, since he had freed himself, Han threatened to kill her if she didn't kneel down. He even asked her what she likes about this idiot. In the confusion, they both struggled, and Han's father appeared with his thugs. He tied them up and stole their memory. Before leaving, the place caught fire. They were resigned to die until Han woke up, freed them, and sacrificed himself to clean up his mistakes. She spent several days crying for her death, but seeing the girl safe and sound who came out well from the operation, they hugged like the family they had dreamed of. But it turns out that Han did not die in the fire and gave the real memory to the police, betraying his father too, whom he had given a false memory. Finally, she was left in charge of the company, and surprise, our boy proposed to her in front of everyone, and between tears of happiness, she accepted without hesitation, thus ending this beautiful love story. Thanks to everyone who watched the summary until the end. I hope you liked it. Don't forget to activate the bell and subscribe to the channel so you don't miss any video. For now, I say goodbye. See you.